it may be the only form of immortality we know.
Do you remember Hampstead Heath, wandering around? What that meant to you? Anything? Nothing? Were you immortal on your 12th?
It meant a playground. And yes, I think I did feel immortal when I was 12, and for that matter, probably through my 20s and 30s.
When did you get the feeling that you were not immortal?
Right. I was going to say, when I used to ride a motorbike, I was a rather dangerous rider. People say you behave as if you're immortal. I think after I almost died on the mountain.
In Norway?
In Norway. After I had fallen and badly injured my leg. I was at 5,000 feet. I was alone. No one knew where I was. I had no way of giving a signal. It was above the Arctic Circle. I would not have survived the night. I thought it unlikely that I would be found. But since then, I think especially, I think probably as one gets into one's 40s and 50s anyhow, you feel mortality, your friends are dying, you feel you yourself are not quite the man you used to be. But I think for me, a particular crisis was this episode in which death became so imaginable.
Can you remember you're there, the night is coming? What was it? Fear? Was it what did happen to you at these very moments?
There were many different sort of moods. One of them was a vivid, involuntary recollection of scenes from childhood, and
really,
and happy scenes from gardens, Hampstead Heath, family, friends,
like in the books.
And it was in fact only when this was happening that I thought of a line from one of Auden's last poems, when he said, "Let your last thinks all be thanks." That I realized at some deep level I was preparing for dying. I had a sense of this sort of transfer from one generation to another. I thought how much I'd been given, and for myself I thought, well, perhaps I've given something to students and patients, and I've thought perhaps I've written a couple of books which are worthwhile. Now, clearly there were other feelings, and there was a sheer sort of animal fear of physical misery and agony, and beyond that, I think the unimaginable metaphysical fear of not being. So it seemed to me not dying, but not being here. And I think along with this, some sense that I think I was fretted by a feeling of work which hadn't been done, and as perhaps we all are. I don't know whether there's any appropriate time to die, but I'm glad I didn't die then.
No, not so clumsy, not so wasteful at that moment.
No.
But can't you imagine a time that you will say, well, now it's enough, because immortality is the real punishment, is the real hell, or...
With this clumsy, wasteful thing, when my mother died of a heart attack, I'm afraid my immediate thought was fucking plumbing. Yeah. I got annoyed at the notion, as it were, of a blocked artery putting the end to a human existence. It seemed to me sort of outrageous. Perhaps that was sort of like the Darwinian feeling. I have many aged patients in their 90s, sometimes in their hundreds, who sometimes say my life has been full, and many of them are religious. They say, Lord, I'm ready. Nunc dimittis. I can't quite imagine that. I'm sort of not ready at the moment. Though I don't know what would happen to me if I became ill. With this poor friend of mine who is a sort of twin. We were born on the same day, and he was in the middle of some of his best ever work. He was a geneticist, and he got cancer of the stomach, which, this is it.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Ridiculous.
And I don't know how reconciled he was. He seemed to me at least to be deeply sad all the way through, although I think there was also a sort of resignation, as Dylan Thomas has this fight against the dying of the light, but then perhaps he was a man in his 30s or whatever when he wrote that.